Today we are going to be working on comparing fractions. And the best way to compare fractions is to start with the actual fraction pieces. So let's say I am comparing 1/3 compared to 1/5. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find these pieces so that I can compare them. 1/3 compared to 1/5. Oh, well, it's very easy to see when I get the pieces out. This one is much larger than this, therefore 1/3 is bigger than 1/5. Let's do one more here. So instead of 1/3 and 1/5, oh, I lost my markers here. I am going to have us do 2/5 compared to 2/3. So 2/5 compared to 2/3. Well, if I put out 2/3 compared to 2/5, even though they both have 2 of the fraction pieces, you can see that the thirds are already significantly bigger than the fifths. So even though these two numbers are the same, it really matters what the denominator is. So the denominator tells me how many pieces it takes to make one whole. And if the denominator is a small number, that means it doesn't take very many pieces to fill up a full one. The bigger my number, the more pieces I need. And that means they're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as this number gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, on the other hand, if I am comparing the numerator, that just tells me how many of that size of piece I have. So let's keep my 2/5, and I am going to compare my 2/5 simply to 3/5. So if I have 3/5 and I lay these out, I'm going to see that quite obviously if the numerators match, then I can tell which one is bigger simply by looking at how many more pieces I have in the numerator. Now let's look at one where it's a little bit more complicated because I have different denominators and different numerators. So let's keep with my 3/5 here. And if I have my 3/5 all together, I'm going to see that that's a little bit more than a half. 4/6 should also be a little bit more than a half, but I need to figure out which one is bigger. So 3/6 is exactly a half, but now I have built the 4/6. These look very similar together, don't they? But if I compare them very, very carefully, and sometimes what I need to do is actually lay one over the top of the other, and I'll get one because I accidentally knocked one on the floor, I will see that this one, 4/6, is just a little bit bigger. I can see there's a little bit more here, and that means 4/6 will win the day and be the larger of the two. Now, if you don't have fraction pieces in order to directly build the fractions, you can use your knowledge of equivalent fractions to help you out. So, if I see that this one has 6 as its denominator and this one has 5 as its denominator, I know that I can multiply this times 6. And if I do that on the denominator, I have to do it on the numerator. Over here, I'm going to multiply this times 5. And if I do it to the denominator, I need to do the same to the numerator. And here, I've got 5 times 6 equals 30. Same, 6 times 5 equals 30. 5 times 4 equals 20. And 6 times 3 is only 18. So when I compare these, 20 is bigger than 18. Therefore, I can tell which one is going to be the greater of the two. Now, another way that I can do this is by using my benchmark fractions. So if I imagine the number line, I start at 0, I get to 1/2, and over here I have 1 whole. If I'm comparing my fractions on the number line, I can use this to help me out. So let's say I am trying to compare 1/3, and I'm trying to compare that to 7/8. This is where rounding is going to become very important. 1/3, I know that that is less than 1/2. So I know it's going to be somewhere in this part of the number line. But when I look at 7/8, I say, oh, it is almost to 1 whole. I know this one is going to be in this area of the number line. So rounding, I know this one's less than 1/2. Rounding, I know this one's almost 1. I can see that 7/8 is going to be bigger than 1/3. And I can test my theory by building it. 1/3, it's not even as much as a 1/2. And then 7/8, when I build my 7/8, I am going to be at almost a whole. So I will be only 1/8 short. And when I compare these, I can see that this one is definitely bigger or greater than 1/3. So when you are working on fractions problems, it always is helpful to do a little bit of estimating and rounding. And if you don't have the fractions pieces, you can always make your own fraction pieces, or you can use montessoritools.org to use some virtual pieces. So that is a quick review on comparing fractions.